A minute or two late here. We're waiting for another board member to come in.
That sound like Sandy.
Two board members.
I can hear you coming.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, God, indivisible.
I'd like to first announce that we had an executive session before this meeting to discuss personnel and a student issue. And we're going to start with a roll call. Terry?
Mr. Clauser.
Here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Here.
Dr. Faulkner.
Here.
Dr. Green.
Here.
Mrs. Heater.
Here.
Mr. Huron. Mr. Reichard.
Here.
Mr. Vognetz. Mr. Brookhart.
Here. Item 1.3, minutes from the April 24th, 2023 board meeting. The board will take action to approve the meeting minutes from the April 24th, 2023 board meeting as presented. Can I have a motion?
So make that motion.
Mr. Clauser and Mr. Reichard first. Any questions or comments? Terry?
Mr. Clauser.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 2.1, reports. Finance and Budget Committee, Mr. Vognetz is not here. Is there anybody that's part of that, or administration? Give us a quick recap. Mr. Moser, are you okay with doing that?
Finance and Budget Committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did an overview of proposed final expenditures and revenues along with what that meant in terms of an actual deficit number, which we'll be presenting here shortly as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Academic Affairs, Ms. Heater.
Our next meeting is on May 10th. There's nothing new to report. I reported at the last one, and it's at 6:30, so feel free to come out and join us at the high school.
Okay, thank you. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Reichard.
Meetings that are meeting last month was the end of the month. We have not had a fresh new meeting.
All right, thank you. Athletics and Extracurricular Activities Committee, Sherry Cooper.
We had our meeting on the 4th. We discussed the Athletic Hall of Fame. We decided we needed to have board approval because of funds. It'll be put on the June agenda. And we talked about the Daktronics truck. It'll be here in the fall, so we can actually see what the scoreboard will look like, what's available on it. We discussed the cheerleaders. They want to do some competition, and so we discussed maybe the district doing some funding for that. And we had a student come in, Cameron. She was talking about getting girls wrestling started. She's going to do a paper at school to see who's interested.
Okay. Health and Wellness Committee.
So our first meeting will be on May 10th at 7:30, directly after Academic Affairs. And we'll be getting a full report from the Mental Health Task Force. They put together this beautiful document going through all the recommendations from the different tiers and the community, which I think this community in general has every right to be very proud of the product that's coming out of that. And so we'll be listening to their presentation and maybe a little bit of response, and then figuring out what we're going to bring back to the board as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Green. Health Insurance Committee. Anything?
There's nothing there to
Nothing?
report.
Okay. Let's see, where are we? VOTEC, Mr. Clauser.
Yeah, I had a special meeting on May 2nd, just to hire a special ed director, and that was it.
Okay, thank you. The CSIU, Dr. Faulkner, have you had a meeting yet?
No, the first meeting that I would have been able to attend is the 17th coming up.
Okay.
But I am going to meet with the director to do sort of an orientation type thing and get a feel for what all that will entail from their end.
All right, great. Thank you. EITC, Mr. Huron is not here tonight. Is there anything from anyone about that committee? Okay, thank you. Head Start, Mr. Reichard.
Head Start change of program scope has not been approved at this time yet. Out here, the focused area is 2 reviews scheduled for the week of May 22nd.
Okay.
Of course, everybody's excited about this. The last day Head Start Pre-K is June the 12th. Having an end-of-the-year celebration on that day for your children and their families.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reichard. CS Trust, the information I've received, I passed on to our administration. Nothing additional beyond that. Mr. Sokolowski will be here soon and will represent us at the CS Trust as well. Superintendent's report, number 3, Dr. Need.
Good evening. First, you'll just see our enrollment numbers. There are not any significant changes from just 2 weeks ago at our April meeting. And if you go to the next slide, Mr. Ryan, you'll see also not any notable changes within our non-publics. And then that takes us to a dual enrollment grant. So I'm really excited to share this news. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some details. So the Danville Area School District is one of only 100 school districts across the state of Pennsylvania to get a full grant award of $75,000 to be used for dual enrollment purposes. So this money will actually go directly to students to offset the cost of their dual enrollment credits. And so we actually offer 27 dual enrollment opportunities for students in high school that are happening right in Danville High School. So they're taking a psychology class, for example, at Danville High School, and if they pay, they can also be getting credit for this. This will now come in and cover the cost of paying for those credits. So this will cover the cost of 250 dual enrollment courses for students. So we will be creating award criteria for this funding, and it will be based on socioeconomic needs and go from there. So we're really excited to be recognized as one of only 100 school districts, and really excited for this money to just go directly to our students at the high school. The next grant that we're in the process of finalizing, so we've been sort of promised that this is coming any day now, but it's called a PCCD grant, which stands for the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. And you can see that we have the possibility, if you go to the next slide, we have the possibility of a $270,000 award. I do believe this kind of information should be coming shortly. So what we're looking at within that $270,000, some of the things that will be covered are mental health counselor from the CMSU, an additional school police officer, the second step curriculum for our K-5 students, which you'll hear more about at our mental health task force committee meeting, where they're presenting that as a recommendation. The ability to have social emotional learning curriculum leads in the same way that we have academic curriculum leads, and then some security measures. This grant was designed by the state to help improve security measures within schools. So there's some parts of the grant that you actually have to have those things in your district before you can move to the next level. So some of the things that you'll see there are sort of requirements that if your district doesn't have those things, money has to go towards those. So we'll be looking at some additional security cameras and door alarms, a shatterproof glass coating that would go on fronts of schools and like office windows, and bollards that would go in various places so vehicles couldn't get up close to the school. So there'll be security measures as well as like mental health initiatives within that grant. So we hope to be announcing that we've received that very soon, but we feel really promising about that. But so we're excited, $75,000 for dual enrollment and the possibility of this $270,000. And I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Moser, who's going to speak about the preliminary budget that you all will be voting on this evening.
So yeah, what is attached obviously to the board's agenda there, the preliminary budget for the 23-24 fiscal year. This was certainly, first of all, I want to take a moment to publicly thank a lot of people who pitched in and got this done under some less than ideal circumstances, if you will, but some fantastic people in the business office. Donna Robbins, Beth Norman just did a fantastic job of getting us all information that we needed whenever we needed it. I want to thank Jonathan Adams, who is our Human Resources Director. He did a fantastic job of getting us information as we needed it as well. And then I want to thank Mike Sokolowski, who is coming on as our business manager, and I know Molly and I are incredibly excited to have come on board and have a full-time business manager here. So as we go through this, I wanted to make sure that I thank those individuals for all the additional hard work that they put forth over the last couple of months for us to be able to get to this point of presenting a preliminary budget. If we can move to the next slide, please, Mr. Ryan. Essentially what you will see, a total overall breakdown, and we have gone through these over the past several months in terms of breaking down revenues, breaking down expenditures, and showing you where we were along the way in that process. So hopefully you feel very informed about that as we've gone. What you see here is revenues brought in a projected estimate of $44,855,905. What I will say is revenues is the area that is honestly the most difficult to necessarily pinpoint, because there are a lot of factors there that we have no control over what comes in. So we also feel that is a conservative estimate, but the estimate that we were going to put forth for this preliminary budget. In terms of expenditures, you see $45,549,852 for a deficit of $693,947. One of the things that we are very proud of in terms of this budget is that the percentage of the deficit reduction from this current year's 22-23 fiscal year proposed budget to next year's 23-24 proposed budget, we have cut the deficit spending by 67%. I think that is truly significant to think about in terms of where we were approximately 1 year from this evening to where we are this evening. Are there any questions about the proposed budget?
You want to start, or do you want me to start?
Why don't you start, Wayne?
Okay, I have two. Federal funds. What did you find with the reconciling of what the commitment was of federal funds, when they were budgeted, and when they were received?
So we have been looking at AFRs along the way, which shows actual revenues and actual expenditures and not necessarily what is proposed in a budget, because a budget is just that. Even a final budget is a proposal. What we have found is that in 21-22, the proposed final budget that was voted on and passed actually zeroed out, meaning there was no deficit, there was no surplus. It was balanced to the cent. When we actually looked at what that meant in terms of federal funding, is that it was backfilled with a very high percentage of the federal funding available. I went off the top of my head, over $2.4 million of the $3.4 million pot was proposed as budget revenue in the 21-22 school year. So it appeared at that proposal as if you were going to have a balanced budget, literally to the cent. That is rather difficult to do, quite frankly. But what happened then, as you went into the following year, because you had proposed that money be that federal funding, that ARP3 ESSER funding, to kind of balance that 21-22 budget, what happened in 22-23 is that it was then really kind of all accounted for before the AFR would have been done from 21-22. And so that's when you showed a $2.1 million deficit,
And that's
even
the
though,
that's the budget that was put in front of us last year.
correct, that's the one we're working under right now.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand, and so that it's crystal clear for everyone in the room what you're saying happened, because I just want to make sure it's clear. So in 21-22,
Like 2 years ago at this point in time.
there was a budget that was proposed, that was presented to the board as being a balanced budget. But the truth is that the budget itself wasn't actually balanced with what was coming in and what was going out. Instead, there was a sleight of hand that was done with one-time federal money that was coming in to make the budget look balanced, even though the budget was $2.5 million out of balance or $2.2 million out of balance. Am I correct in that interpretation?
The only thing I would say is that it wouldn't have been 2.5 at that point in time. Essentially, what you're looking at is a true deficit, even with federal funding, of the $2.1 million that showed up last year, really was over a 2-year span.
2-year span.
So instead of looking at it as a 1-year span, it was truly a $2.1 million deficit cumulatively over the 21-22 and 22-23 proposed budgets.
So that makes it slightly better, meaning the deficit that was being covered up with one-time federal funding wasn't $2 million, but it was probably $1 million or $1.2 million, and was presented to the board in a fashion that essentially was saying there was a balanced budget when there clearly wasn't, because one-time funds were being used to, quote, balance the budget in a way that isn't considered an appropriate spending of the funds.
Which then left you with a $2.1 million deficit the following year, because that money that was able to be spread out over the course of 3 years was all booked that first year in the budget. In terms of a budget, it was
Because it wasn't
presented
meant to
that
be
way.
spent to balance the budget. It was one-time funds coming in, it wasn't reoccurring revenue. So then, when we got the budget last year, there was suddenly a $2.1 or $2.2 million deficit that had accrued over 2 years, but was actually already present, but the board wasn't presented it the year before because it was covered by one-time funds, which seems rather deceptive to me, and to be quite frank. So now when I look at this, it makes this all the more impressive from my perspective.
I think it's also fair to note that in the past 2 years, there was over $1 million from the federal government that could be spent. And when we're creating this budget here, we're down to only $400,000 to be spent.
Actually, over those 2 years, there would have been about $3 million to be spent, because we're left with about $430,000 for next year. And we had about 3.4 in that original ARP 3.
So there's a reduction in the deficit and also a very significant reduction in federal funds that we had to work with.
Yeah, so we're getting hit twice. We're no
Correct.
longer getting the one-time funds
Correct.
to help supplement us, and we're also dealing with the residual deficit for a budget that wasn't balanced, even though the board was told that the budget was balanced. You guys have made up over a $1.4 million gap already with what we've done, correct?
Correct.
That's pretty impressive, to be frank.
Yeah. Other questions or comments? And I referred to Jason, but I appreciate Dr. Need, what you've done, the administration, the staff, and everyone as you work through this. I know there have been a lot of budget committee meetings, regular basis, and you had the charge of, we're not doing anything to hurt the kids, obviously, but you were supposed to do a lot of digging and find out maybe where things were budgeted that weren't being spent. I know you found at least one revenue category that wasn't included in the budget last year. That was real estate transfer taxes, I believe.
Real
which
estate
was
transfer tax. was
several
not included, correct.
$100,000, which wasn't even included. So I appreciate all of you working your way through this in the absence of any real business manager with any longevity and experience. It's been our administration that's worked their way through it, so thank you. As well as the budget committee and everyone else, all the other stakeholders. So again, thank you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. We'll transition to some district highlights. And so if we want to start with Mr. Wynn and some great things happening at the high school.
So yeah, Danville High School, we had our prom for 2023 at the venue. So thank everyone who made that a success. A lot of time and energy and effort and chaperones go into making that successful. The rain did hold off for the most part, so our students were able to, do the promenade and not necessarily use the outdoor space that you see there, but they were able to, have a good time. And I think there was about 200 students there, so with their guests. Community Garden Foundation, our Planet Club in FFA and NHS, and you can see a number of other people there helping out. I know Mr. Snover's probably going to talk about that a little bit more, but the community garden at the Danville Middle School, a lot of effort has gone into that. There is a transition survey. I don't know if, Alyssa, if you were going to touch on that at all, but so the transition survey that the QR code is linked there, that the special ed department would love if we could have students and families fill and complete that survey. Yearbook group, the yearbook students had someone from Jostens come in and do a presentation and pick out and look at what some popular designs would be for the next year's yearbook. Envirothon took place with our FFA students and Mr. Wagner helping students, again, a lot of first place awards. And always appreciate and respect what our FFA students do and the advisors do. They put a lot of time and effort after school into those preparations. FBLA, again, another successful group, had another conference that they went to in Hershey. Again, a lot of success. You can see the students there, and it does talk about their some of their awards and types of things that they received. FFA banquet. I know some people were at the FFA banquet. It was another successful event. Mr. Varholek joined a distinguished group, and I say distinguished because I was part of that group as well, of people who were awarded FFA awards for appreciation for people in the school and even outside the school that have a significant impact on FFA. Again, reminder that it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So our mental health, there's an art club that is running out of the DAC. Junior firefighters, we have a lot of students, believe it or not, who are part of our junior firefighter. We don't call it a club, but they are junior firefighters and work and go to actual fires. Some students actually leave throughout the school day if they're able to and go help out in needs with our firefighters. I talked about prom. Again, over 200 students there, and our king and queen were announced. So again, you can see the court in that top left photo. That's the outside part of the venue there, kind of like a gazebo type of place that they were able to go down and get a picture taken. Forensics always do a phenomenal job. Our forensics group, a lot of names on there. But they do a great job. They go all over the state and even participate across the nation throughout the year. Again, phenomenal. It's no matter who our advisor has been, they've done a great job over the time that I've been here at Danville. So appreciate what they do. And again, a lot of work. It's all done after school, so a lot of time put into that. Lit Mag, there was a poetry slam in April, and this is Dr. Need's daughter is the editor in charge of the club and of Lit Mag. And then Jara Stroney, if you are familiar with the America's Got Talent type of show, she again is a finalist for the First Columbia Bank Teen Star competition. This is last year she took second place in the solo voice competition, and she again is a finalist. That live competition will be at Matrani Hall in Bloomsburg University on May 21st. And then there's just a couple notes there about our spring athletic notes. Again, if you go to danvilleironman.com, you will see all of our athletic events, and you can scroll down there, Mr. Ryan. So our Penn Relays, I know you guys have all heard Rory Lieberman's name before. Rory actually, so the Penn Relays, it's a pretty big deal. Rory won the 3,200 in the Penn Relays. He's actually going to be going to school there next year. So it was a pretty neat experience for him. And that is really saying something to win an event at the Penn Relays. Bronson Kranak was there as well and threw the javelin almost 200 feet. We had, I'll go down the bottom first, Bella Johns and Sarah Sharp continue to break school records for the track program. Appreciate all that our coaches do and our student athletes do for our track program. And then in the middle there, now at the top, you see Mason Raup was one of our student athletes who received a PHEC scholarship. Again, that's a pretty big deal because you're talking all student athletes from fall, winter, and spring apply. A lot of student athletes apply for this. They actually have to then read their essay in front of the group. But there's an essay that is submitted. They talk about, what athletics or, what their high school experience is like. And then there's a committee that actually picks winners for that. And so Mason was one of the 2 male athletes in the PHAC to win the scholarship this year. And the last couple things are just upcoming events. AP testing is going on with success. A lot of our students take AP exams. If you remember the presentation that we did in the past, band and chorus concerts are taking place. There's actually, the chorus concert is on Wednesday. Keystone testing will take place next week. It is just a reminder for parents or anyone who might be out there listening. I did send this out, but it is a sleep-in for juniors and seniors during that window, and then they come in for the rest of their day. I know Mrs. Willoughby's probably going to talk about the primary school field day. There's a trip to Wallops Island that you all approved that we'll have some AP science students go to. Senior exit interviews, which is a tremendous success here. Senior exit interviews are something that every one of our seniors sits down with a panel and kind of talks about their high school experience. They talk about maybe what they want to do next in their future jobs or college or military or workforce, whatever that might be. And they sit down and kind of, if they've never had an interview, it's kind of frightening for some of them. Some of them leave in tears. They're just so emotional about the moment that they're leaving high school. But it's also a great experience for our staff because they get great feedback from our students. So that's happening. That is an asynchronous day for everyone else. So that's, if you think of what an asynchronous day, that was kind of like a COVID day for our high school students where they will just be kind of learning on their own. And we need that because every one of our faculty members participates in that senior exit interviews. Forge On Festival, Mr. Varholak has done a great job organizing this, and our staff. It's almost like what we do for our homecoming carnival, but then again in the spring. And then finally, we wrap it up with final exams and graduation on June 9th. So sorry to
No,
do
thank
a
you
lot of
so much.
talking there,
There's a
but
lot of good
a lot-
things
a lot
happening.
goes on at the high school,
Yes.
especially this time of year with awards and ceremonies and that kind of stuff.
I apologize. This is just stuck in my brain before we get too far away from
Yes.
this. I just want to say, as a taxpayer and as someone who has someone in the district, that I really do appreciate, Dr. Brookhart, your leadership, Dr. Need, your leadership, and Mr. Moser, even though I want to call you Dr. Moser, your leadership, because you did all this. You covered that budget gap without raising the taxes. And I think that makes it all the more impressive. And I just am stuck on what's happened previously. And I understand that I have to be a little careful about what I say here, but it kind of horrifies me that one-time payments were used to give the appearance of a balanced budget when there clearly was not a balanced budget in the district. And I just have to say how much I appreciate the rest of this board's leadership and the administration's leadership in bringing us out of this, because this was not a hole this board or this administration dug. And so I really felt the need to say that because as I was thinking about this more, I was becoming, to be quite frank, more and more horrified by the situation that was handed to us and the way it was presented to us. So I apologize for dragging us back into that. But I just want to point out that you guys have done an amazing job not doing this without raising taxes.
I appreciate that. We certainly take the fact that the taxpayers are funding the things that happen in the school district really seriously. And both, I know Mr. Moser and I are very committed to, if there is a point in the future that we need to come to the board and to the community recommending a tax raise, that we can, with true faithfulness, say what's happening in the budget and say where that money is going.
Well, I think
and
in the
so
spirit of
we
transparency.
take that responsibility very seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think that's appreciated by the public, and it's definitely appreciated by the board.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm still Mr. also.
Oh.
Thank you, though. I do appreciate it.
He's just spreading it all around.
Yeah.
I want to make everyone a doctor.
You earned that degree.
And thank you, Mr. Wynn. There are a lot of things happening. Spring is a busy time in the school system, so we have lots of fun things to share. I'll turn it over to Mr. Snover. Also great things happening at the middle school.
All right. Speaking of not spending any district money, we have continued. We did talk little bit about this at the last board meeting. The Danville Middle School District Community Park is again rolling along very, very nicely. We did talk a little bit about the tree planting at the last meeting, but I did want to extend a thank you to the FFA, Planet Club, and the National Honor Society, all of which had student representation at that activity, and actually several groups of them came back later to help with the more with the community garden. They were actually there last week working again under Mr. Mast. We did have the community garden put in. It has a really, really nice fence around it now. If you haven't gone back there and looked at it, huge shout out to Suburban Fence Company for helping us with that. So it's looking very nice, and we still have quite a ways to go. As mentioned in that article by Ashley, the Degenstein Foundation has awarded us a $100,000 grant that's going to go towards the pavilion, and then there's part of that's going to be a matching grant that will go to continue some of the other parts of the project that we have planned. So that community garden, or excuse me, the whole park project and community garden is rolling right along, and it's really fantastic. Before we move on, I will highlight 2 events coming up. We have our band concert coming up on tomorrow night. And then on the 11th, Thursday, is a chorus concert combined with an arts night. So this will highlight all the the performing arts, fine arts of Danville Middle School. We'll have stuff set up in the lobby area so parents and students and community members can come not only enjoy a fantastic chorus concert, but view a lot of the student artwork that will be on display for them to check out. So I did want to just talk about those 2 events coming up among the many at the middle school. So more about the garden. That's, let's see, Mr. Wagner there down in the hole with the tree, as we would expect to see him doing that. You can continue on. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Just a little flashback to the March 31st student versus staff basketball game. As we know, the students managed to just eke out a 1-point victory over the staff. However, on a bigger picture, money was raised for a really worthwhile cause, and it was a really nice community event. It brought out all kinds of people, representatives from all the schools, a packed house of community members, students, staff, parents. It was a really awesome event, so I would like to kind of go back to that quickly. At the middle school, we just had our National Junior Honor Society induction. About 60 students got to walk across the stage that will represent our school through, again, the National Junior Honor Society. It's similar to the high school's honor society, just at the middle school level. And there's a lot of things, just like at the high school, students have to do to qualify. They have to have a high grade average. They have to be approved by their teachers. They have to complete community service hours. There's a number of different application processes that are in place. And then eventually they are inducted, and they can serve. We induct 7th graders, and then in some cases 8th graders. On. And then just a couple quick activities, events. Of course, we every month recognize a group of 6 students that represent what we call RISE. That's what the middle school acronym is. And that just a quick flashback on that. RISE came about in around 2011 when the middle school was flooded. Our motto at that time was, we're going to rise above this, we're going to rise above these floodwaters, and we're going to come back better and stronger than we were before. So that term RISE has really stuck around at the middle school for the last 10, 12 years. We've been saying that off and on for a lot of different things. And about 4 years ago, we made that our motto: RISE, respect, integrity, success, and empathy. So students that exhibit those characteristics, those traits, are nominated by teachers, and we take 2 students per grade level every month that, again, represent those traits. I'd like to shout out to a couple of our students, who you can see in their beautiful ABC fashion show, which really stands for anything but clothing. They made their outfits out of, I believe, duct tape. I think there were some bike tubes, soda tabs, so they got very innovative and creative, and we're at the ABC fashion show. We had our PMEA Jazz Festival representatives, and then, of course, we did talk about at the last board meeting, we wrapped up our middle school drama production of Sherlock Holmes, and thank you for bringing up. Yes, we are aware that there are sound issues, and the ball has already been rolling on looking into how we can solve them moving forward in the middle school auditorium. So thank you, and all kinds of great things happening in May at the middle school as well.
Thank you, Mr. Snover. We do have Mr. Haravi, who does a lot of our sound and light work, and Mr. George, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, getting costs associated with some repairs at the high school and also looking at the middle school. And Mr. Gump.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you noticed how nicely those first grade students in Mrs. Zosh's class has been waiting. Boys and girls, you are doing phenomenal. We'll get it moving, okay?
You're almost
we'll
there.
Get it moving.
Okay, Mrs. Heater, I'll take that hint. So we'll go to Liberty Valley really quick here. So we had a science fair. Lovely science fair put on by our Home and School Association. Thank you to Angela Sindrick, who organized that as one of our parents, and the students did an amazing job. Lots of projects throughout the gym and cafeteria area. So that was a nice night. STEM Ozobots are now rolling in the third grade tech curriculum. So Mrs. Jenny Quinn is working with our third graders on some programming for, again, our third grade students. So that has been a nice addition to what we're doing at Liberty Valley. Page 2 of the newsletter, our 24 math tournament. We have 24 finalists here, 12 from 4th grade and 12 from 5th grade. And that is led by Mrs. Bainey and Mrs. Byer. So again, our finalists are listed there. So great math tournament. That's very fun to do. I find it very difficult, but the kids seem to do very well with it. And finally, at the bottom of the page is our 5th graders have many rites of passage throughout the spring at Liberty Valley. This is just one of them. They put on the Iditarod race where they have blankets, and they got a sled. They have the dogs to pull, as you can see, and so they just race through the halls of Liberty Valley. And surprisingly, no head injuries, nothing like that happened this year. So we're thankful for some of the fun things our 5th grade teachers do with our students to pump up for the PSSAs.
Thank you, Mr. Gump. Mrs. Willoughby, so boys and girls, you might see some people you know on this one. We're talking about the primary school now.
Are you guys gonna watch? Okay, so first up on our, I'll just start, Mr. Ryan. First up on our newsletter, we are highlighting our morning milers. So 1st grade, have you guys participated in morning milers? And is it so much fun? Yes, so Mrs. Bartholomew and Miss Browse started morning milers, and it has become, a loved activity every morning at school. We're thinking of different ways to incorporate it into the school day for next year and years to come. But it is a positive way for children to start their day outside running. If you look at the map down in the hallway to the cafeteria, we have, where are we at, Mrs. Bartholomew? We are about halfway across the United States. So we're past Illinois. So that is a wonderful activity happening almost daily. Next, we are just trying to, connect with our community. So Miss Langford's art classes created these wonderful works of art that the Good Samaritan Mission has displayed in their windows. And this was taken on by the Young Samaritans, who are a club down at the high school. So it was a lovely partnership. If you move down, we had a kindergarten class do some persuasive writing, and of course the letters came to me. And oftentimes they're persuading me to purchase ball pits and trampolines and maybe horses, who knows what. But our little Sadie here asked to bring back Ice Cream Fridays. So for the next 4 Fridays, we have ice cream available in the cafeteria. Coupons were handed out to teachers, so all students are able to enjoy a treat. Finally, our first and second grade concerts were a hit. Mrs. Carmichael did an amazing job, and the students were superb. It was a wonderful, wonderful concert, and it was Miss Carmichael's very first concert on the big stage in the district. So everyone involved did a phenomenal job, and the students were fantastic. And then on our final page, just some upcoming events and our Iron Kid recipients this past month.
Thank you. And our final update from Mrs. Marshall about happenings at Head Start.
Mine is very quick because we don't have clubs at Head Start. We just learn in fun ways. Of mine, Jeff.
And it's just a slide, Mr.
Yep, just one
Ryan.
slide.
So it's like the next slide.
So we have been growing our partnership with Geisinger and just doing a lot more things, helping us to meet some of our regulations, helping us teach our students how to stay safe in different environments and situations that they could be in. On the bottom page, we had the Geisinger Mobile Dentistry come in. We were about 87% of our kids having a dental exam. So we partnered with them to come in and do screenings on our and fluoride treatments on our kids to help us meet and get there to 100%. And then we also had Geisner's Health and Wellness team come in to talk about My Plate Munchers and really talk about increasing fruits and vegetables and eating healthier. And then a spin-off of that, we had a parent meeting, a parent and child meeting and an event where they got to grow and take home lettuce, some celery, and pots that they can grow in the house, in their home, and then eat later also. And we had some vegetable tastings there for the kids to be able to do that. And it was just a really neat, you can see the kids planting. They had such a good time planting their own vegetables and being able to grow them at home. So just lots of fun things happening at Head Start.
Thank you so much. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. Move to number 4, public comment on agenda items only. Public comment, anyone? Okay, number 5, 5.1, presentations outside guests, the first grade student published authors with Madison Zosh.
It's your time. We made it.
Michael Glass. Next to Mrs. Cedar.
Right here. So Mr. Brookhart, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Amazing.
You gotta earn it.
We know who's important.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mrs. Zosh, and these are a few of my first grade students who have worked really hard. This process took about 2 months for them to do rough drafts, think of what they wanted to write about in Danville, and now we have a finished product. So this, like I said, took about 2 months, and the publishing company, they sent us the whole kit. We did the whole process. The kids were very patient. The books are in, and now we are going to have a publishing party this coming Friday for this book. We have invited so many community members to come and see the unveiling of the book. We have the Riverside mayor coming. We have county commissioner coming. We have invited the Danville mayor as well, and we have also invited all of the local businesses to come, and they are very excited to see that their business is being honored in a book. So without further ado, This is our cover. It's the Iron Kids' favorite places in Danville. And our first grade students chose a business in Danville that they thought was absolutely incredible and the reason that everyone should live in Danville. If you can go to the next slide. These are our authors. There are 19 of them. In addition to myself, Ms. Gocknauer, my student teacher, assisted in the process. Go ahead to the next slide. And we have our very first author, Mackenzie Beach, and she will be reading her writing, which will be The Dollar Tree. Good job.
Do you like cheap toys and candy? If you do, I have the place for you. I think the Dollar Tree is the best place in Danville. The first reason is because there are a lot of toys there. There are little dolls, big balls, small cars, and a lot of other stuff. The second reason is because there are $5 or less dollars. The dolls are mostly $5, sometimes dolls. The third reason is because there is a lot of different kinds of candy, and the Sour Patch Kids are my favorite, and my little brother likes the sour watermelons. That is why I think the Dollar Tree is the best place in Danville.
So that was on our very first set of pages, pages 1 through 4. Next up, we have Madden, who wrote about our SPCA. These are on pages 8 to 11 if you are following along in one of the books.
Do you like cats and dogs? I have the place for you. In my opinion, I think Pennsylvania SPCA adoption place for pets is the best place in Danville. The base reason is because you can give away toys to the animals. I would give them away toys to play with, and so they don't get lonely. Also, they don't get scared at night. The second reason is because they have cats and dogs to adopt. If you are lonely at home, you can adopt a pet. They have adoption events, and you can adopt a dog from the SPCA. They rescue animals from bad homes. That is why I think the Pennsylvania SPCA is the best place in Danville.
Next up, we have Thomas, who wrote about Friendlies, and this is on page 12 to 15.
Did you know that there is a place in Danville that puts candy in their ice cream? My favorite place in Danville is Friendlies. The first reason is because they have ice cream that has gummy worms in it. It tastes yummy and squishy. The second reason is because they have grilled cheese, and it's so cheesy and soft. The bread is soft and crunchy. The third reason is because they have claw machines that you can get shirts from, and grown-ups can wear them. The fourth reason is because the cold ice cream is mouth-watering. That is why I think Friendly's is my favorite place in Danville.
Next up, we have Emerson Green, and she wrote about Geisinger, and this is on page 16 to 19.
Have you ever been sick before and wanted to get better? Then I have the place for you. In my opinion, Geisinger is the best place in Danville. The first reason is because my mom and dad work there. My mom is a kidney doctor, and my dad is a cardiologist. The second reason is because Geisinger helps people with health issues. There are many different departments to help people. The third reason is because the doctors and the staff and the nurses are very nice, smart, and respectful. The fourth reason is because people come from all around the world to come to Geisinger. If you live in Danville, it is very close. That is why I think Geisinger is the best place in Danville.
Next up, we have Jace King, and he wrote about sheets, and this is on page 38 to 41.
Do you like yummy milkshakes? Then I have the place for you. In my opinion, I think Sheets is the best place in Danville. The fourth reason is because I like their ices. I like their blue and red flavors. Be careful not to drink it too fast or else you will get a brain freeze. The second reason is because I like their food. I like their hot dogs. I like to put ketchup on them. The third reason is because I like their company, because they have food and snacks and drinks and gas and air for your tires. The fourth reason is because I like their music. They play Savage Love, but that is my opinion. Sheets is the best place in Danville.
And last but not least, we have Elijah Poole, and he wrote about Busy Little Beavers, and his is on page 49 to 52.
Do you like toys and games? I have the place for you. In my opinion, Busy Little Beavers is the best place in Danville. The first reason is because they are building a new playground. I am excited for the slide. The second reason is because they have activities. I made a elf craft there during Christmas. The third reason is because they have a fun playroom. They have blocks to build houses with. The fourth reason is because you can make a lot of new friends. They like games. That is why Busy Little Beavers is the best place in Danville.
So I know a lot of people always ask me when they see this book, especially in the community as I was inviting people, how can I purchase one? So you can either scan the QR code and it'll take you right to our site where you can purchase a book, or you can go to the website, which is Student Treasures Be mindful, it's 1T, not 2, .com/order copies. And then you must put in this PIN in order for our book to pop up. So for every 20 books that are sold, the company actually gives us a $25 Amazon gift card to put back into the classroom. So thank you very much for having us, and we really hope that you enjoyed the book.
I think, can I ask them to come over here for a minute? So come here, guys, come here, quick. Listen up. So listen, we know these adults sitting at this table know how hard it was to sit through that, and we think that what you did was so amazing and that you deserve a little treat. What do you think? But you have to use it tomorrow because now you got to go to bed because it's late and you have to go tomorrow. All right, so this is from the board for all of you. They're little cards that you can take your family, your siblings, and get some ice cream, all right? So are you Mackenzie? You know what? I had your mommy in kindergarten, and you look just like your mommy. Yeah. Madden, Thomas, Emerson, Jace, and Elijah. And I do want to say one more thing. I want to give a big kudos to Mrs. Zosh as well, because this is not in the curriculum. This is a lot of extra work for the teachers. So again, Mrs. Zosh, thank you for all you're doing for the students.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well done. Really appreciate it, Maddie. And you're certainly welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but I do know it's late. So if you choose to go, we'll take a break for about 30 seconds to a minute here. And if you decide to depart, you can certainly do that. We will not be offended. Okay. Number 6, school property and supplies. 6.1, payment application for number 11 for Michael Mechanical Incorporated. The board will take action to approve payment application number 11 in the amount of $41,681.25 to Michael Mechanical Incorporated as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Okay, Terry?
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. Athletics activities, 7, nothing there. Okay, 8 is academic affairs, school and community relations, nothing under those categories. Number 10, finance, we have some finance reports. 10.1, expenditures, revenues, and all the activity that you normally get through the business office. 10.2, cash receipts are also there. And then 10.3 is an action item. That'll be bills for payment from April 19th through May 3rd, 2023. Board will take action to approve the bills for payment for April 19th, 2023 through May 3rd, 2023 as presented. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Clauser, Dr. Green, any questions or comments? Terry, we're ready for a vote.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Abstain.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 10.4, 2023-2024 proposed budget. The board will take action to approve the proposed 2023-2024 budget as presented. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Clauser.
Second.
You got a second? Questions, comments on the proposed budget? We just saw a presentation or heard a presentation on it. If there's anything further to discuss or any questions that you have, now would be the time. Want to verify conservative estimate on revenue, as we said. There's still a deficit, but it's certainly not overwhelming, and we think we'll probably come in pretty good shape. Significant deficit reduction from last year, so I think it's a success. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay. Terry?
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 10.5, 2023 Head Start and Pre-K Counts budget. The board will take action to approve the 23-24 Danville Head Start and Pre-K Counts budget as presented. A motion?
Motion.
Mr. Reichard, second. Mr. Cooper. Questions or comments? Okay, Terry?
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser, Mr. Clauser.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Already playing.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 10.6, Pitney Bowes lease agreement. The board will take action to approve the Pitney Bowes lease agreement at a monthly rate of $359 for 60 months for the Send Pro Mail Center as presented. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Reichard,
I'll second.
second. Mrs. Heater. Questions or comments? Okay. Time to vote. Terry?
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 10.7, the voluntary student accident and interscholastic sports insurance. The board will take action to approve the voluntary student accident and interscholastic sports coverage for the 2023-2024 school year through Yoder Insurance, in parentheses, Axis Insurance Company, at a cost of $8,507 as presented, and this is a reduction of $1,502 from last year's premium. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion, second. Any questions or comments on this insurance, which is something we do every year, obviously. Okay. Terry?
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. Personnel consent items, 11.1, the board will take action to approve personnel items 11.2, 11.3, and 11.4. If you would like to take a look at those quickly and see if there's anything that you would like pulled off of this list, please let us know and we'll pull it out and discuss and vote on it separately. There are only 3 of them tonight. Remind everyone that a lot of things are condensed because we just met 2 weeks ago. Anything you'd like pulled out? Okay. We got a motion to approve. I already read it, so I think we're ready to move on that.
Motion.
Okay, got a motion, second?
Second.
Darrell? Questions or comments on any of these items? Terry?
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 12.1, 2023-2024 DASD Emergency Instructional Time, Section 520.1. Board will take action to approve the 2023-2024 Emergency Instructional Time, Section 520.1 document to be submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Education as presented. Motion to approve.
I'll motion.
These are the FID days, right?
Second.
Flexible instructional. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and these are flexible instructional days. It would be 5 of them.
Yes, you get approved for 5 of the flexible instruction days. We have built our calendar for next year to go back to traditional snow days.
Okay.
So we would keep those sort of in our back pocket, I guess,
Okay.
in case some sort of emergency happened. But our plan would be to go the traditional route of making up snow days
Okay.
and not going to these virtual.
That swings me
instruction days.
personally toward
You can
approving
also
this.
now use them for an individual building.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can.
Okay.
So like,
Opposed to district-wide.
if there was a flood, you were talking about Rise, Mr. Snover, you could just do something to support the middle school to get through that time.
Okay.
So we would reserve them for emergencies only.
All right. That I'm a lot more comfortable with that. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 12.2, the E-Grant signature resolution. The board will take action to approve a resolution to authorize Dr. Molly Need to sign any and all contracts, agreements, grants, and/or licenses with the Department of Education for the Danville Area School District and the Danville Head Start using electronic signatures as presented. I think this is a requirement, right?
This is a requirement, and earlier you approved me to do it for the Danville Area School District, but we didn't include the Head Start, and their grants just came up, so we had to go through some extra steps so I could sign for them this time around, so this will allow us to not go through those extra steps next time.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Got a-
Second.
And a second. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Terry?
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 12.3, Danville Head Start Training and Technical Assistance Plan. The board will take action to approve the Danville Head Start Training and Technical Assistance Plan as presented. Need a motion?
Motion.
Peter?
Second.
Cooper? Questions or comments on this? Terry?
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 13.1 under transportation. I'm sorry, did I miss the homebound?
We did.
I
yes.
did, okay. So we're going back it up here.
Back to 12.4.
12.4, thank you. The board will take action to approve homebound instruction for student number 110343 beginning April 6, 2023 through the end of the 2022-23 school year, and we're doing this retroactively. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Dr. Green and Mr. Reichard, any questions or comments on this homebound item? Okay. Terry?
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. 13.1, the 22-23 bus driver list, ongoing here. The board will take action upon the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the bus driver list for the 2022-2023 school year as presented, pending receipt of all required clearances and documentation.
So moved.
Clauser?
Second.
Mrs. Cooper? Questions or comments on the bus driver list? Terry, we're ready.
Mr. Clauser,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Abstain.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes. Board concerns and items for the next meeting agenda. Anybody have anything they would like to bring to the attention of the remainder of the board? I have two things I want to talk about real quickly. And I also wanted to clarify as well the executive session for press enterprise. Jerry, we also talked about the superintendent's evaluation in the executive session. I forgot to bring that up, okay, just so you know, which we do at the end of every year in June, and I think every district does. Okay. Does anyone have anything other than me? I'll bring up my two issues here, or not issues really, but just things I want clarification. We talked about an additional sport, and the student was out looking at a list. Is that to the point where we're doing an interest survey, or are we just putting that with the student right now?
No, we're actually officially doing an interest survey that will come out of the administration.
Okay, because that's a Title IX thing for compliance, so I
Yes.
just wanted to be certain, which is actually good to do it that way. Yeah, okay. And the Hall of Fame, I know that this is something that I think it's a great thing here. I just wanted to know the level of, how far are we with this? You know, I commend the people that are working on it. I'm just kind of curious because it's something I don't think has come to the full board at all. I'm just curious where we stood. So I don't know who, is that
I'll let
yours?
Mr.
Mr. Moser also?
Yes.
Sure. So where we're at in terms of, I think, you know, it's one of those situations where there was work that was done towards actually starting it and actually having an induction. However, it came to our knowledge and understanding that it has not actually been board approved. There is at least a minor commitment of funds from the board. So it is something that, you know, we have to kind of work through the process. So the plan would be to have at least preliminary reading, a draft of a document for the next athletics committee meeting, and then a proposed, in terms of definition of what it is, a document outlining who would be committee, you know, what types of memberships would be on the committee, not the who's, but what are those positions, what are their roles, what are the responsibilities of the district, what is criteria, so on and so forth, for the June board meeting for
Okay.
reading and approval.
Be bylaws and selection process and things
Correct.
like that, involvement, community or just district or?
Community as well.
Okay, because I know most have some community involvement, and I did have somebody ask about that, and I told them I'd get it clarified tonight at the meeting.
Yeah, I actually, at the athletics committee meeting, one of the things we discussed was that there would be, from an administrative perspective, we would have likely have non-voting members
Right,
on the
okay.
committee that are not voting on the nominees,
Mhm.
but are, our involvement and job is to make sure that all the resources are provided and that there's steering of the ship, so to speak, from the beginning of the process to the end on an annual basis.
Okay, and that's coming to us in June then, right?
Correct.
All right, great. Thank you for that and everyone that's been involved. Anything else from the board? We'll have our next public comment on items that you would like to bring to our attention. Ms. Bartholomew.
People at home can hear you then.
Okay. Thought I had a loud enough voice. We're having a shoe drive to raise some funds for a variety of the activities that the kids do, the morning milers and the Kids Run the Nation program and the summer youth track and field program. So if you have gently used shoes or new shoes hanging out in your closets or garages, whatever, as long as they're in nice condition, we will be glad to collect them. I think Mrs. Willoughby in our lobby area. All throughout the month of May. Our goal is 2,500 pair of shoes, and they can be sandals, boots, sneakers, anything that's in good condition. And the funds raised for this will go back into the kids' programs that have been mentioned in the last few months. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You won't tell our wives, will you? If we bring a bunch of shoes in, you won't say anything to our...
Nope.
Okay.
Other public comment? Anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay, I had one more thing I wanted to say before we close, unless anyone has anything further to say. We have a lot of recognitions that are either just passed, coming up, so I wanted to say something, and maybe some other people would as well. I know this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and one thing I felt consistently, and I've had 2 daughters in the system, so the recollections go back close to 15 years, is that my kids have had fantastic teachers at all levels, in all subject areas, and on all, whether it be counseling or grade level or content. When you move through the secondary level, I've been so appreciative of the teachers in this district and the great job that they do, without exception. So just wanted to express appreciation for the work that our teachers do here on a daily basis. It is greatly appreciated, and much more so than you hear. It's discussed often in the community, and that's just from my perspective, and then I'll open the floor to other people. Also, Principals Week, we appreciate the time and the energy and the effort that you put into principals work that you do. I know that those are difficult, complicated positions. A lot of ambiguity comes your way, and you have to make sense of complicated situations. And I'm sure you don't get an awful lot of people that call you and say, hey, you're doing a great job. It's not the way the job works, so it is appreciated. And thank you for your efforts as principals, and another position that's under-recognized and so important is school nurses, especially through the pandemic, but all the time. So we wanted to express appreciation for them as well. Wednesday of this week is School Nurse Day. Yes. All right, so thank you to our school nurses, and really thank you to everybody and everything you do. But just wanted to point out those groups in this open public meeting. So that's from me, and if anyone else has anything they'd like to say, that's fine. But my assumption is, because I don't hear anything differently, that is for the board and the way we all feel. Okay. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Any dissension? No? We're ready to go. We're adjourned.